Thank you, Mary, for that wonderful introduction and that warm welcome. I am really honored to receive this award and to stand among a distinguished group of prior recipients as well. Since the founding of GLAAD nearly 4 decades ago, this organization has brought people together to make a really profound positive difference in the lives of millions of Americans. Now, especially in recent years, your committed efforts and the hard work of countless allies across this country have helped to bring about really remarkable, once almost unimaginable progress. Now, thanks to leaders and activists in and far beyond this room, our nation has made really great strides in the road to LGBTQ equality, a cause that I believe is a defining civil rights issue of our time. Yeah. You have stepped to the forefront of our national discourse, helping to mobilize millions to raise awareness about issues of concern for the LGBTQ community. You've spoken out for the rights and opportunities that have too often been denied to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals. You're calling for policies that stabilize families and expand individual liberty. And you're doing it really all in a manner that is enduring and that is predicated on an understanding of our common humanity, and that is founded on the singular idea that has defined this country since its earliest days. The nation that all are created equal and that all are entitled to opportunity and equal justice under law. Now, throughout the course of my career, this work has also been a top priority. And together, and I really mean that, together we have brought about historic, meaningful, and I hope, lasting change. That commitment to equality under the law drove me to decide, along with President Obama in early 2011, that Justice Department attorneys would no longer defend the constitutionality of Section 3 of the Defense of Marriage Act. I had a strong belief that all measures that distinguish among people based on their sexual orientation must be subjected to a higher standard of scrutiny, and therefore that this measure was unconstitutional discrimination. And in 2013, on an extraordinary day that was made possible by so many of this organization's members, the Supreme Court issued a historic decision striking down the federal government's ban on recognizing gay and lesbian couples who were legally married. Now, this marked a critical step forward and paved the way to an even greater victory a few years later. Mary, your argument in Obergefell was an inspiration. It truly was. I was and I remain proud that the United States could be a partner with you in that fight. We finally live in a country, as a result of your efforts and the work of so many others, where the right to marry is considered fundamental for all, whatever your sexual orientation. That case constituted a really resounding victory for committed and loving couples throughout the country who fought for equal treatment under the law, for children whose parents had been denied the recognition that they deserved, and for millions of families, friends, and supporters who wanted to see their loved ones only treated fairly and who worked tirelessly to make that a reality. It also pretended a positive collateral impact for members of the LGBTQ community in the same way that Brown versus the Board of Education did for African Americans. But we gather tonight at a very consequential and different time. In a post-Windsor, Obergefell world, this should be a time for contemplative satisfaction and reflection on the progress this great nation has achieved. Alas, it is decidedly not that time. After those significant victories in our highest court, and despite polling that demonstrates a significant attitudinal change by the American people, our success is under attack. bolstered by an administration whose governing philosophy is to divide us and to breed fear, the forces of reaction are on the march. The possibility of the undermining of those historic court opinions and where they might have led us is very real. The potential negative consequences with which we must deal go well beyond marriage equality. We have seen these arguments before. In opposition to the civil rights movement of the last century, religious liberty justifications were advanced. They were found to be lacking in constitutional support then, as they must be now. I cannot emphasize enough the need for attention and for concerted action now. Our hard-won progress along a range of LGBTQ issues is at stake. We must be prepared to fight. But there are other fights in this struggle that must also be dealt with. Members of the LGBTQ community must make common cause with others who still suffer under the sting of disparate treatment. If a person of color is denied the right to vote, this must also be of concern to members of this great organization in the same way that every person of color must recognize that the struggle for civil rights cannot be said to be complete until all people, regardless of color or sexual orientation or ethnicity, possess the rights that every American justifiably claims as his or her own. There is much work to do. There is much to struggle about. The battle will be long. It will not be easy. There will be defeats that will accompany significant victories. We must steel ourselves, and as those who came before us, persevere in the face of unprincipled opposition and specious reasoning. Our cause is just, and we must never forget that. Our cause is consistent with the founding ideals of this nation. I look forward to working with you all to make this nation the place of equality, justice, and fairness it can and that it must be. We must commit ourselves to the fight against discriminatory policies and against the dishonesties and the prejudices that fuel them. I know many of you here tonight already give your time and your money to further this cause, but each of us can do more. Together we can stand against the forces that seek to deter us from the important work that remains. Together we can ensure that GLAAD has the support that it deserves and needs in order to keep up the fight for another 40 years and then beyond that. Together we can send an unmistakable message. We will not stop until every LGBTQ individual, every American, enjoys equal worth, equal rights, and equal dignity in the eyes of the law. So let us keep speaking out. Let us keep standing up. Let us keep resisting. Thank you very much.